All right, I want to call this meeting to order. If I could have a motion to open.
Motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we'll have a roll call of our voting members. But we start with you, John.
John Farrar.
Cindy Courier?
Damon Jesperson. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Janine Cunningham, just visiting.
Thank you. So, what I would like to do is review the matrix scoring. We have 10 different locations or combinations that we are to have reviewed. I would like to go into depth with the top 3, or if there are very important things you want to talk about on any of them. So, if you guys could identify your top 3 locations, that would be very useful.
Do we want to start?
Yeah, I'm just circling mine right now because
So, just to be clear, when you say top 3, 2 of my top 3 are a location that I actually don't think is appropriate. So, when I was scoring, when you look at, is there space for a building, is there this, is there that, yes, it all fits, but, for example, one is basically taking over the library and making them move to a new location. I don't think that's appropriate, but everything here fits. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do know what you're saying, and I struggled with especially like new building on the Upper Green.
right.
Because it did score high the first time I did it, and then I thought about it and I thought, well really, well, you could say that the cost was low for that. It isn't. Because
Not because the library would have to build a new building.
we'd have to build a whole new library and renovating that space to be COA compliant. And that's part of why we do the discussion. And we can go through each one and talk about it, but I thought...
All right, that would be helpful then, because I scored those as a 7 because I looked at it as town-owned property that we didn't have to purchase. But it makes sense what you're saying, that then the library has to go somewhere, so
yeah,
it
the
doesn't
library
really
has to be
cost.
rebuilt and the other site. So,
Okay,
you know, why don't we start with what I think is probably our preferred location and talk through the Kentway land and library, which is the first one
on the list.
on the list. So I gave the first column building size a 7, which gets weighted to a 14 because while there is some wetland on the Kentway site, I believe there's more than sufficient room for the building. And so I gave it a 7, which becomes a 14. How did you score it?
I did the same. I didn't know anything about the wetlands, but we had been given this map. So the way I was looking at these sites was
Yes.
the yellow in the map would be, so this particular one would be a 12,000 square foot building. And that was the lot of land, so to me I said, yeah, yes, the building fits. Not knowing anything about,
The wetlands are really not terribly close to where the building would probably go.
Yes. I mean, we haven't done the site work, so
I have done the site work for Eric Stein on about 4 occasions.
yeah.
And in the wetlands, I don't think impacted construction site whatsoever. It would be maybe impacted marginally for the wonderful trail that leads down through the property and allows for outdoor activity for seniors.
so I'm
I gave it-
ignorant to all of that.
I gave
Yeah,
it.
there's more
Yeah.
depth, you know,
Yeah.
as things get narrowed in on,
Yep,
then you go into more depth.
Okay.
Because, doing a wetland survey of the site before we've actually done any, before the select board has even said they are willing to start the process of raising funds and voting for this, doesn't make a lot of sense. The next thing is parking. Again, the size of the lot, to me, indicates that there is plenty of parking.
yeah, I gave it a 7.
Outdoor space. To my mind, the site has the potential for great outdoor space.
Yes, I gave that a 7 as well.
Street access. To my mind, well, Lund Street is a little off the beaten path. It is easy street access if we access from that side. Again, site development may indicate a different access at some point, but from what we know, it should work perfectly well.
Yep,
And it is familiar in that it is next to the library and the library entrance. And One Street is a safe place for seniors to drive in and out of.
Access to utilities, we know that there is water on site, and we know that there is power on site. So we've got a 7.
yeah, me too.
I give it a 7 as well.
Visibility and ease of finding. It's a little off the beaten path on Lund
I
Street,
gave it
but
a 6. It's still pretty, I think everybody knows where the library is, but when I think like coming with vendors coming from, it would just be a little bit more difficult for them to find, but I still gave it a 6. It's not.
I can see a 6 being an option. I've given it a 7 because of the library, but.
Yep.
Septic and sewer, I gave it a 7 because, again, the size of the lot indicates that we'll be able to find a perk on the property that will function. Anyone have doubts about perkability?
I gave it a 7, not knowing, just based on the fact that the library is there and they have.
They run those programs. Okay, 8, proximity to other town functions. What did
I
you
gave
give?
mine a 7, and then it was weighted at 1.5, so my total is 10.5, just because it's right there with another town function, the library.
Yep, John?
I gave it a 7. Next to facilitate, obviously the hall across the street, as well as the post office, and the library.
I wrote in my notes that, well, we'd be losing some of the proximity to town hall. We would be gaining other proximities, and so I also gave it a 7. Cost of site?
I gave it a 7, because I was understanding this is town-owned property.
Yep.
I gave it a 7 as well.
I gave it a 6 because I believe that we would have to do some moving of things. They just put in the playground,
That's a good thought.
the little league field may have to be adjusted somehow. So there may be some shifting to fit things onto the site to keep it safe. And so I knocked it down a little bit because it won't be just the expense of the building. It would be the expense of possibly relocating the playground, possibly reorienting the baseball field. But I think, again, it's town-owned property, so those are within the scope of budget that this project would have. I don't think we need to go down to a 5 on the cost, because I don't think those things will be that expensive, but they are an expense. So that was, and I wrote into the comment section all of my comments, and I'd like to collect those from you guys for writing out of the report in case there's stuff that I missed.
I don't have comments on mine, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave a total between 72.5 and 73.5.
My total was 72.5.
And the reason mine is two numbers, 73.5 dealt with 6 versus a 7 on parking, and that you'd have to build a little bit more parking space behind the catches location, behind the home plate location at the ball field.
Yep.
So it's an asterisk 6, and my comments are
Great.
here.
Thank you.
I think Kathy had a similar score, but she'll pass in her. I can scan on an email too.
Okay. Or I can come back.
Okay.
The next one on the list is Hanover Street, so we can just sort of walk down the line.
I gave that one a very low score.
Yeah, I ended up with a score of 18. It's off my list.
I did 22.5.
I ended up a little higher, but do we want to discuss it, or do we just want me to consolidate it into the comments, since it is clearly not a winning?
I can give you my comments. My major comment was, is it a buildable lot because of the extensive wetlands?
Yeah. Is there anything else about that particular?
It also is no proximity to other elements of governance. The fact that this can't be included in that cadre because they're too busy taking care of kids.
Yeah.
They're not in opposition to each other, but there's no synergy either.
Okay, so we'll.
But I also, when it was talking about access to street, I don't know if I wrote that on there, but
It's
how
well off
would
the
you, how would you
track.
get there?
Yeah. So we'll do access. I'll put that in for you.
I think that was why we were on.
Do you want to collect these up?
Yes, yeah, because I need to consolidate into a summary for
Okay.
each. And so having what you guys wrote, I can always meet with Kathy later. So that was Hanover Street, 25 High Road. I don't have all the tie sheets in order.
This was a mid number for me.
Yep.
It wasn't the highest, certainly wasn't the lowest. My main concerns about it, for the street access, that's a very busy road in terms of being able to get in and out. Sewer and septic, I know there's a history of issues. While it is close to 2 other town departments, police and fire, they're not departments that people typically visit. When you think town hall or the library, people go there for I don't think I've ever been, I've lived in my town for 22 years, I don't think I've stepped foot in Lewiston other than once. And the only reason I went to the fire department was with my brownie trip when my daughter was small. But it's not, I don't see them as departments that people are
Actively
right, actively engaging with versus the library or town hall. So that's why those got a lower score. But-
So what I did for this one was, I gave it a range, and the reason I gave it a range is because we do not have a plan for what's happening with that fire station. It does need to be rebuilt at some point, and we do not know what town hall's plan is moving forward. And so, if the selectmen choose to move forward with a new town hall on that location, and we combine a facility, then it meets a lot of the needs.
Okay.
If they don't, and we're over there by ourselves, I agree, then it becomes a very, have a good day.
Thank you. So my other concern with it though is parking. So if, let's just say like a 10,000 square foot building or whatever it is, on this particular map it shows a 12,000 square foot building,
Yep.
that's going to erase a lot of space for parking. So parking got a very low score for me.
Yes, so I did parking
It's the second one.
as a 5,
Oh, wow.
because I think should that site be chosen, it would be, the fire station will get torn down, the old town hall will get torn down, the whole site will get reconfigured. And so I wasn't using just that lot. I expanded it to the whole
Okay,
lot
that makes a
with
difference.
only one access or egress, which changes the parking layout and how
Right.
things would work.
So as it, like, looking at 25 High Road,
Yes.
for me, that's why my score is so low, is because I feel like there wouldn't be enough.
Enough space, yeah. I scored it low, you know, it's not as big a site as we would like, but I think it, with some clever engineering, I think you could get the parking, but again, it would require a lot. So mine has a lot of caveats. It
Okay.
also scores, you know, when you do the downside of it, it goes way down. For like, oh, we're not taking down the fire station, we're not taking down the.
Right, if you look at it as is, so like there's no outdoor space.
Yeah.
There'd be enough space for the building, I gave it a 7, which would give it a 14 when it's weighted. The busy road brought my score down to a 5.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's access to utilities.
I put street access at a 4 because it's such an unsafe.
Okay.
Where were you?
What did you put on High Road for street access?
I put down dangerous intersection, Hanover, Morgan, Graham Avenue, 1A, 10 Crock, and all
Yeah.
the Rolfs is literally a thoroughfare with tourists coming and going from a mile.
It's busy, yeah.
I come out of the butchery sometimes, I have to count 20 cars, turn left on 1A.
So what did you score it as?
That's what it is, a 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I put down for outdoor space, it was a 2 because again, you'd have to reconfigure things to get across to the green and that's not much of an outdoor space anyway.
No, so I gave it a 1 because there's really nothing.
Yeah.
But I gave access to utilities a 7, visibility, ease of finding a 7.
Yep.
Sewer septic, I gave it a 5 because I know there's been a history of issues there, so I don't
It's
know.
on Newburyport Sewer now, so
So that would be a 7.
it should, yes, I think that should go up to a 7.
Okay.
Because provided the Newburyport septic system doesn't fail, it should be fine.
It's sewer, not septic, right?
Yes.
I gave it a 7 as well,
Okay,
because of the fact that the report's taken over.
okay.
Yeah. And you gave proximity a 4, so I did a range of 3 to 7 because we don't know what is going
What would
on.
be there? So it would be, obviously to me, if it was town hall was there, it would get a 7.
Yeah.
But the way it stands now, I gave it a 4 and weighted 1 half, so my total was 6.
That's what I gave it, a 6.
And then the costless side, I gave a 7 because,
It's already up.
Which brings it, which took it from, it's a mid-term, the total score is 47.5. So
it's 53.
Yeah. And I had a 53 to 63, depending on what the town does.
Okay.
So, could I get your 25 High Road, please?
my biggest concern is the dangerous activity. It's a thoroughfare.
Yes.
There's 2 major intersections, Hanover Parker and Rolf Lanes, all by itself. And the very fact that the farm brings a lot of people
Yeah.
from Newburyport down to, and a lot of that traffic coming south on 1A is going for vegetables
So
and meat.
when you look at a spot like that on town-owned property, but High Road is state-owned,
Yeah.
can you do a light if you were to put a facility there?
I think we would petition.
So the
The
state would
state.
have to decide it.
Yeah.
So it would be
So-
out of our,
It took me 5 years to get the light in the lanes in Elm Street after being a witness to 2 fatalities.
a light or a blinking light?
It's a 2 lanes and a blinking yellow, and a blinking yellow at Boston Road, because there was a fatality at Boston Road. And all of this was on Chief Mary's watch. And but it took me 5 years along Colombo, Representative Colombo at the State
I'm
House.
gonna check this to see if it's AAA. Hello?
This is a long time for AAA to show up.
Yeah, right? Go back.
saw it. It literally took the two right tires and pulled them both out. I was lucky enough to be about a quarter mile below the Raleigh truck stop. So I pulled into the Raleigh truck stop. I called 911 first, and that's all took the lake.
Okay, the next one, moving down the list, is 12 Kent Way.
So I have 2 scores on this.
Yeah,
So
I have 2 scores on this one as well.
mine is if town hall stays here or without town hall.
Yes, I did the same thing.
But also, just to be clear on the first thing I put on the building size, I mean, on this lot, yes, a building would fit, but it's a rented, it's not our space.
Yes,
So
I mean,
that's- So yes, it got a 7, which ultimately gives it a 14, but can you build on it?
see, I only gave it a 4 because I don't think we can pay for the space that we would need to expand the programming the way the programming is run. So,
To expand the rented location?
yes.
Okay, so the way I looked at it was, do we plan building on this spot? That's why I gave it such a high score, because yes, the building would fit there, but it's not our
Yes, well
plan to
then,
do that.
the cost, you probably should have put as a 1 because.
It's a 1,
Yeah, we can't buy them.
right.
So I also have the cost fairly low because we don't own the property, we get to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, they can always, if we made a major investment, they can always then change our rent.
Right,
So I didn't give this site much credit for size because we are constricted by the building that exists. And I didn't give it much credit for cost because we don't own it and everything we do is an investment for someone else.
right. But even if we took over more, like, let's say town hall leaves and we take over more space, to me, the building's size could potentially be there.
Sufficient.
That's why I gave
Yeah.
it. But again, it doesn't, and parking, there's plenty of parking here.
See, I didn't give the parking a great score here because you have to walk across the sort of drive lane. You
Yeah,
don't
that's
park
true.
next to the building.
That's true.
So I only gave it a 4. Maybe that's too low.
And so I gave it a 5, and I just commented it's a thoroughfare.
Yes,
Okay.
that's, you have to walk.
It's much less so now than it used to be. When the fertility clinic here, it was, there was like 18-wheeler trucks coming in and out. It was way more dangerous than it is now. But there are still people coming and going to those storage units all day, so.
Yeah, so maybe it should
It
be a
is.
5, not a 4.
Well, I gave it a 5.
Okay, so that would be 5, and you gave it a 7 for
I did simply
space.
because I was looking at parking, like, there's a lot of parking. It's not, like, even though we have spots on the side of the building that say reserved for council on aging, that's a heck of a walk.
Yes, well, that's why I didn't think it should get a 7.
I wrote a letter to Mr. Sullivan asking him, I took photographs of the governors, Jesus Christ, of Governor's Academy, the way they handle the crosswalks. They don't allow cars to park, so for approximately 200 feet from every single crosswalk, there's a white clean out lane on the road which doesn't allow people to park, which obviously obfuscates somebody crossing or travel on. And he needs to paint a white walk trail on the grass road to the front door, so that people, as they leave these side spots here, this place right here needs a walk lane. Doesn't have to be wide,
Well, they just painted that crosswalk.
but the crosswalk unfortunately doesn't protect
No, it
you.
doesn't, but they just painted that last year, because
Yeah.
I asked them to when they repaved, I said, can you put a crosswalk in, just because it was, it's so busy there, and at the very least, it was helping people in the handicap spots, but it's not helping anybody else.
No, I had up in the grass because people literally, their wheels are 2 feet from that curb because their car's coming the other direction. It's a two-way street.
So yeah, I didn't give it a good score. What did you give Kent Way for building size?
Building size. I gave it a 4.
So,
which total out at 8.
yeah. And then again, I think the range is appropriate because if town hall leaves,
Right,
then this is the middle of nowhere.
It is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's already kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
I'd give it a 4 for visibility and ease of finding, because unless you have GPS, who the hell knows where this is?
so I gave it a 7. Number one, because we've already been here and established, so people know where we are. That's why I feel with the library, right? People
Yeah.
know where that is, even though it's off the beaten path. And this, coming from the view of vendors coming,
It's very easy. to
it's
get.
easy for me to give them, exit 81,
Okay.
take a left or right.
I
That's
can
what I
see
did,
giving it a
yeah.
little bit more.
Access to utilities, I gave a 7.
Yeah.
Sewer septic, I gave a 7. Clearly that's
Yep.
working. Proximity to other town functions, so this is where I,
Did the range.
yeah.
Yep.
So currently, I gave it a 7. But if they're not here, I give it a 1.
Yep.
Because we'd be all alone with just the storage.
Yes.
yeah, I gave it a 7 and a 1 with an asterisk, and because there's literally 0 visibility, and proximity to other town, I gave it a 7, but the asterisk is, which you've already said, the town hall.
If they leave.
If they leave, then so
Oh.
the aggregate score is 39. It's
I'm
not on my
doing
top
alright.
2 list.
The total I gave it was 51.5, but again, I scored the building size higher than you guys did.
Well, my range is 49.5 and 39.0.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm closer to what you thought.
But with town hall here, it gives it a higher score. But again, I was looking at the building size differently than you guys were.
I gave it a 4.
See, I'd given it a 7, only because I was just looking at the space, can we fit here? Like if we needed more rental space or to build a building here, but if you build a building unrented, I don't think you can do that, so.
You know, you'd have to buy.
It doesn't, yeah, it
You'd have
doesn't,
to buy a portion.
that's why
You'd have to buy the building from
Right.
Sullivan. And these.
and it's not for sale, number one,
not
but
for sale.
that's why I put the cost at 1, so. It's not an ideal location.
When it was a hotel, was the time to have turned this into something special. We sold this property for a nickel.
This was town-owned property,
Yeah,
and now we rent it.
it was I've forgotten the name of the chain, it was a large motel.
Sure. I'll see if I can remember.
The town property was literally abandoned for the longest time.
Wow.
502, 4102. Thank you, King. You have a good one.
That's my Kent way.
That's
That's
the
right.
way.
Oh,
Just
there's
take
the
it
range hall.
away. Alright, range hall, let me find it. Okay. So, I gave it 2 for building size because it would max out the lot to fit the building on there. We'd have to move a historic structure, and it's already a tight lot.
So I gave it a 4, because I thought just the building would just fit there.
Yeah.
And that's, it can be busy
Mhm.
in that section, that road.
And you're parking on one
Same.
because there's already insufficient parking, and you increase the building size, and it will be less. Outdoor space, I gave a 1.
Same?
Street access, it's right on the street, it's easy to find. Access to utilities, 7. Visibility, 7. Sewer, I know nothing about, but maxing out the lot, I assumed would impinge the sewer.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I gave that a 3.5.
I give it a
1.
1 to 5.
Yes.
You know, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure we couldn't fit a sewer system. And then proximity, I gave it a 1.
I gave you a 1, 2 times 1.5.
Yep. And then cost, I gave it a 5 because we would have to demolish the old grain or relocate it, which adds to the cost.
Okay. I gave it a 7 just because it was town owned. That was my qualification of that.
Yep. John, did you have anything significantly different?
No, I just, it came in the low 40s.
Yep.
Mine was 41 total.
Mine was 34 to 38. So. Your sheet, please, Joan. All right. Old COA, space at NES. I printed up 2 of these, unless they are different. Nope. That's row number 7. Building size?
1.
Yeah. John?
I gave it a 2, just because assuming it had to be an additional building.
Fair enough. Parking?
1,
Same.
Yeah.
outdoor space, 1.
Same.
I gave it a 3 because you could develop some of that wetland, but.
Well, now you're asking me to have them walk all the way over there.
Well, who knows? Maybe we build us a parking lot in the back.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, walking's good for people.
Yeah, if there's appropriate,
Yes.
not through the
Appropriate
parking
places.
lot.
Street access
I gave it a 7.
is a 7, I agree.
And 7.
Access to utilities, yeah.
Certainly easy to find next to the school.
See, I gave it a 1 because we talked about the old space, which was not that easy to find.
So that's what I wrote, a 1, no one could find us. We'd have to go out of ways to people,
Yeah.
get them with, vendors could never find us.
Sewer and septic,
I gave it a 7.
7. And for proximity,
I gave it a 1. I understand it's a school, but, which is a town function, but not something that's conducive to us.
Yeah, I gave it a 1 as well.
yeah. I said the same thing. The school was not set up to foster interaction. Like, I really think it's important for the elderly and our youth to interact, but the school is not the location where that can happen. When the kids are in school, they're in school to be in school,
Right.
not to come over and,
Hang out with the seniors.
playing with the seniors. Like, it just doesn't, it did not foster that sort of interaction
Right.
in any way. Cost of site,
I
you
gave it a
own the
7.
site.
Yep.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I came up with 34.5.
I ended up at 36.5.
Yeah, I got a 36.5. So we're in the same range. So, I think it's just gonna give me
But everything, yeah. But we are going to need access to the school. Yeah, no, he was just trying to get him onto the car. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is kind of
that is such a useless message. Just a robocall saying, we'll tell you things later.
Oh, nice.
Chick-fil-A hasn't shown up yet?
No, so I just called in between the break because I wanted to get back into the previous meeting because I felt bad leaving. And so I called during the break and they're headed there now.
Why so long? That's, I don't think AAA in this
Sometimes that
neighborhood.
takes long.
Yes. I don't know.
So the two patrol cars are stuck there for the duration.
Yeah.
Well, she's lucky to have that, that's for sure.
They usually have a police officer at Mass Day.
Yeah, there's usually one there. I think it was the
Resource officer.
resource officer.
Yeah. I wonder if we're ready to hire a new resource officer yet.
Do you have the book?
So now 19 Central Street,
Yep.
the Apple Building.
So I gave that a 4 times
Yeah, yeah.
2.
I have to go.
It's an 8 because it's not town-owned property. It looks like if you were to take that building down, you could,
So
it's not even as big as, what they put on here was 7,587 square feet. And it just says first floor.
Now I check your Blake. Hello? I can hear you, yes. Mm-hmm. 25 minutes, great. So I am not at the car, my partner's with the car. What? No, but it's my car. So. Okay, if I need to be there, call me back and I'll beat you there. Yeah, I'm up in Byfield, it's down in Massville, so. Yeah. Okay, I'm in a meeting, so why don't you just call me if I need to be there, and then I will try and wrap things up and get there. Thank you very much.
15 minutes to get to Massville.
He said 25 for him to get there,
Yeah, so
so.
you got time, so you could,
Okay.
we want to be quick.
We're on 19 Central, right?
Yes, 19 Central. The parking looks just sufficient to me.
Well,
Outdoor space.
0.
I
I give it a
put parking 1, outdoor space 1, I wanted to put a 0.
So the reason why I gave parking a good number was in this key in the upper left-hand corner, it says 45 spaces.
Yeah, when I did the Google Maps and looked at it, I counted the spaces that exist already, and they have over 40. So,
So that's why I gave it a good,
Does it belong to that industry or does it belong to yours?
so in how I looked at it, it was all on that lot.
Okay.
right.
Street access I gave a 4 because it's, the definition between spaces is very poor, and that parking lot, Pearson's parking lot is not regulated properly, so people pull out all over the place, which can, I've not seen it cause accidents, but I don't spend a lot of time there. So I gave it a lower score there, but gave the parking a 7 because I feel like it is
Adequate, yeah.
And if you turn left out of there, then you get face up to a trash bucket in the middle of the road. I've talked to Patty Fisher about that a couple of times. I cannot believe that they allowed that giant piece of steel to be right on the road.
Yeah.
Literally. Sometimes it's over the white line.
Access to utilities,
I gave it a 7 because I'm
Yeah.
assuming,
I assume 7 as well. And the visibility and finding, of course, is 7.
same.
and then the septic sewer, I did a range for this one, but I just don't know. The building has been there a long time.
Yeah, I went on my assumption that because the building's been there and they're functioning, that
It
it
works
works.
functioning now, but would it function
True.
for what we need? And so I gave it a lower
I gave it a 4.
Yeah. Or I gave it a range.
Well, the reason I gave it a 4 is because the increase in people would mean a larger capacity requirement.
Yes, that's kind of what I was assuming, and that's why I didn't, even though it's got a functioning one, I didn't want to give it a full score, full
That's
marks.
Proximity as well as I gave it
Yep.
35 is the total score, but more
So I
importantly,
also, outdoor space, I gave a 1,
Yes.
because there's nothing there.
well, that's what I said.
Okay.
But more importantly, I put an asterisk here. Just, what a ludicrous place to put a historic town village. Council on Aging. You're in the middle of a commercial parking lot. I don't care what you do to the landscaping in that building.
It's a commercial lot.
You've got a commercial street, and then you've got private residences going up Route 95. What, 9, 10 homes? And all the traffic that implies. And then you walk out in the backyard, and if you've got a beautiful sitting area, you're standing in piles of dirt and filth and rocks and timber. It's an ugly spot. You look across the street, it's the ugliest corner in North America.
Well, I also gave the cost of site 1 because we don't even own that property, so. it
Correct.
seemed
We
like
don't know
a
what it
good
would be.
to me.
Yep.
I put down 1 in the idea of, it's beyond the pale to even consider it because of its proximity to 95 and all of the filth that goes through that lot.
That's everything's in order. So that was the Apple Building, 84 Central Street.
So I scored 9. So I actually gave building size a 7. So this is to either add on to or whatever the field house.
Yeah, I gave building size a 7 as well.
I gave it
So
7 as well.
That gives us 14 for that.
Yeah.
Parking I gave 7.
Same.
Outdoor space, clear 7, obviously.
I mean, I did say with parking a 7, but it would need to be paved and lighted. We would need it. If you've ever gone up there, it's just pitch black.
And it should be pitch black because people go out to look at the stars.
Yeah.
So,
So, but if we were to have
Yes.
building there, I would want.
Put a walk-in dogs.
there would be an expense added to that, but I
Right.
think the note that it,
I put a note in.
okay, good.
Outdoor space, I did say 7 as well.
See, I said 6 because some development needs to happen to make that outdoor space accessible to some seniors.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, some trails.
There are trails, but they're not
And
disabled or,
walkers don't work well.
yes.
Utilities, I put a 1 because it's unknown. Didn't know.
Well, the field house does have electricity and heat
Yeah.
and air conditioning and,
So there's a
toilets in
transformer
there.
in that pool.
yeah.
Is there a septic system that would allow 90 people to be on the property?
Yes.
So that, yeah, I put the septic as a 4, but the utilities, I feel like, are sufficient. The wells are sufficient to water the fields, so we have sufficient water to drink. And I feel like the power is sufficient. But the septic it was challenging to put the first septic system in, and I think to do a septic system for this type of use would add another layer of complication.
I put a range of 4.
I did put a 7 for ease of finding visibility.
Yeah.
I put a 7 as well, septic sewer, that's where I said I don't know, I put a 1 4.
I think that's reasonable. I put a 4 because I think probably with the size of the lot,
You could
it
do it.
could do it, but it was challenging the first time, like I said. And there are wetland restrictions and buffers and things to be indirect. Proximity to other town functions.
That's a 1, we would be all by ourselves.
Yeah. I put a 1 because while there are games and other things like that, it's not the interactions that bring people.
But that also is not happening during our hours. and all
General
that.
hours, yeah. And cost of site, I put a 7 because we
put a 7.
property. Can I have your And then we had adding a second floor to the library. Make sure I get the right one here. So,
So I made assumptions with this one too.
yeah.
I'm
we
assuming you could do that. I don't know if that's physically possible. I don't know if you can have structure with staying in the second floor. I don't know anything like that, but I assume that you could. However, the COA needs to be on the first floor, so then that's displacing the library to the second floor.
Yeah, so I said, I gave it a 3 because I said it's not ideal to put either the COA or the library on the second floor. It's possible, but it's not good for either one.
Okay.
But it mostly, for me, the negative came in the cost of doing it. You know, the parking, again, I said that I'll let you guys go first.
What did you say for parking, John?
At parking, I gave it a 6.
I did as well. My thought was, there's some parking there, but I feel like there's space to put more parking. But then again, that would be moving.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 because I said it was already tight. And running both programs simultaneously would be challenging. So it has to grow.
It would have to grow. I mean, the other thing that I am looking for is to potentially have a covered area for playing. So that would add.
My consideration was that you work on different days of the week. There's very little use of the library Monday through, rather Tuesday through Friday, because the kids are in school and programs for the kids are a big part of that parking issue. And the weekends is when it's heavily packed.
The most busy.
And you're not there.
Right.
Yes, in Monday they close. So the element is, I gave it a 6 only because you really synchronized nicely.
Yeah.
Quite frankly,
Well, you're out of sync place.
out of sync nicely. Excuse me. Yeah, you're right.
The outdoor space, we discussed this already. It's a 7 because we could increase the 10K use.
From one in the end, think about a fire pit and watching the ball game. I mean, it's like, don't worry.
But again, most of the ball games are not over there.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing.
But they can show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can show up.
Street access, I think we probably did the same thing before. A 6, I added a 7.
I left it at 7.
We can knock that one around. Access to utilities.
I gave it a 7.
Yep.
That's good on.
I left the visibility the same as for the previous.
Mine is a 6, again, just because it's a little bit off
Yep.
the main road. Sewer septic, I gave 7, just assuming, but there.
Yeah, I give it a 5 because the expanded use may require development. I don't know what you did, John.
I gave it a 5 for that reason. Eric actually made that comment in sitting over there at one of the meetings. About how that would be an impact for that one.
So proximity to other town functions, I gave it a 7, which ultimately is a 10.5.
Yep.
As did I.
And cost of site was a 7.
So I did cost of site as a 1 because I think renovating the building to add a second story will be astronomically expensive.
I'm sure it would.
Whether, no matter what goes upstairs. If it was the COA, either way, we need an elevator,
Sure.
major renovations to the structure, it's designed with these vaulting ceilings, like.
So,
I gave
right,
it
I
a 2.
understand what you're saying. The only reason I gave it a 7 was because we moved up.
Yeah, I understand that, I just.
So you do what you
Yeah.
need to change that.
All right, John, can I have your sheet? Oh, there's some.
Mine was a 2 for the year
Yeah.
because of elevated requirements. And then the second single most beautiful location would be the last one, just because I don't think the town's going to let you destroy a couple of grand.
Oh, I mean, there's.
Well, and also telling them to party, they have to leave their home
Yeah.
is,
Well, I mean, think about it. There's I'm on sort of a non-committed committee with Have you met Robin Etheridge?
I don't know, the name is familiar, but
He's heading up that committee to go before the select board to declare Little Green as a historic district. Prohibiting, I mean, it's the concept, and I've sat on the committee with him and made the recommendation it should incorporate the upper grade as well. I mean, that's George Washington bivouacked his troops on the way to Canada, and the element of building a library on that. Think about the district and all of its historic element with a modern library in the middle. Perfect.
So my thought is the person who made the suggestion perhaps doesn't know all that history. I don't think the person was trying to step on any of Newbury's history. I think they were just trying to see space that was open and.
yeah, that is it. Owned by the town.
But my major difference between this one and the last one was giving the proximity to other town functions alone, because the last one technically we would be with the library, this one we would be alone.
Yes. I actually knocked this one down building size, which was probably inappropriate, because I was like, the space isn't appropriate to the use.
No, so they would take some renovation.
Yeah. Outdoor space, I gave the same.
Yeah, parking.
Street access, all of those other things, and the proximity, went down to 0. And I think cost of site to renovate that building to be something else, I probably should have given less. I gave it a 7, but I think it should be less.
So at the end of the day, when we look at these, and I know you don't have Kathy's yet, but the Kentway land next to the library is definitely on top when I'm scoring this.
Yes,
You can have this as well. This is,
Yeah, it's the only one that I've got that gets into the 70s.
yes, yeah.
All the rest are in 40s and 50 land.
I have the high road with the range dropping, up into the 60s if everything is done together, and down in the 50s otherwise. Yeah.
And with a giant asterisk just because it's in traffic.
Yes, I mean, part of what I really liked about some of the redesign when we were talking about the combined police town hall was the ability to fix some of those errors in street design. But that's,
but ultimately that's up to the state.
well, it would be one of the things that if a town hall, COA, fire station was proposed, we would talk to the state as part of the process and say, we want to change the road cuts here, we want to change that road cut, or we want to install a light, all of those things would be part of the due diligence process of vetting and designing a building.
But ultimately it wouldn't be up to the town, it would be up to the state at the end of the day.
It is up to the state, but they would.
They accomplished it with Rolf's Lane. That's an enormous improvement.
Okay.
Was there no light there before?
And the paint job, which gives people notice. And think about the intersection at the west end of Hanover Street. What's your sense of what the new grade of paving? Is that just for wet weather or inclement weather?
I have no understanding of what happened there or why.
It apparently it brakes better. I mean, when you hit your brakes.
Well, for the next couple of years it does,
Yeah.
until it erodes. And then, you hit it with a plow truck a couple of times, and I have no sense of what. Do you have your scoring matrix before we get too distracted? Or did you not fill yours out?
Mine's a mess.
Okay.
It's okay, mine was too.
So yeah, I talked to the folks at Newbury Animal Hospital about that, because I thought they would know a lot more about it.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we just came to work one day and they started working. They didn't even notify them.
It's almost, I don't know the correct word, serrated.
Yeah. It's
Almost like
the rumble strip on the side of the road.
yeah. or that they're now using for lanes midway. At least then you get a noise as your tires go over the white line alert you. That's an improvement. Maybe it's all about braking.
It could be. I don't see why it would need to be, but, on the 21st, the veterans is at lunch, right? Breakfast. Very late.
I hope I can make that.
I'll write that, but
Yes. Okay, so what happens now? You take this?
so yes, I think the compiled stuff, I will condense the notes, I will put together our recommendation, which is the Kentway site. Kentway in combination with the library site is our first, and I will check all the scores, do our second, our third, compile a
Is that it?
narrative.
You're gonna do three, top three?
I would, our top 3 recommendations, and then I will do a narrative, I will explain the narrative and the reason behind each one. Then I will, as I said, that'll go out
To the COA.
to the COA. I can send it to you guys for any additional comments in case I miss something that you feel like is salient and needs to be in there beforehand. And hopefully I can do that. We have till the 30th. So hopefully I can do that within the next couple of weeks so that you guys have a chance to read it and comment, and then we can get it out ideally by the 23rd. Although I'd love to get it done before I leave. I'm actually taking a vacation, so I'd love to do it before my vacation.
Yeah,
Wait.
I'm on vacation on the 12th of June for 6 days.
Your plan is to send it to the COA members before our June 30th meeting so they can review it.
Yes, so that they can have read it before that meeting.
And they can be discussion.
So we can have a discussion and move it to the select board so that we can present it to the select board. I think that.
So that means you have to get on their agenda. You're not just sending this to them, you want to get
No,
on
I
their
would
agenda.
do a presentation. But first, there's a few hurdles here and there. So that is, the next step is on me unless one of you really wants to do it yourself.
Oh, you do it.
I need to get Kathy's input,
Okay.
so I will talk to her. And provided that when I get the report done, you guys get your comments on the report to me and it goes to the COA and they don't look at us like we have 3 heads. I think the ad hoc committee will then not meet again. Unless we get sort of reconstituted as part of a larger town building committee, which is possible, but I have no idea what the next step should be.
So should we plan to meet on the 30th after the next COA meeting, or do you want to skip that?
I think let's plan, we can always just meet, say, yep, we're gonna send it to select people.
And be done.
Be done.
Okay. So June 30th at night. Okay.
Yeah. So we've done that. So I guess we should take a motion just to be formal about it for the next June 30th at 9:30. Move it.
So moved.
Second. And did you send us notes for?
I didn't send,
Okay.
I have the minutes for the last 2 meetings, but I didn't put it on here, so we can wrap that meeting.
Yeah, we should do that at the next meeting, so we
So
can
then I'll have the
formalize
minutes
our
from
meetings.
this one too. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you want to do a motion to close?
Yes.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
think this is really good work.